So you bought yourself a V10 TDI, or maybe you wanted to be a degenerate and buy someone else's problems with a hood-stocked ALH, or maybe you want your wife to ride style with a nice new common rail TDI. So no matter how you slice it, if you're going to be working on these older Volkswagens, you're going to need to invest in a high-quality bi-directional scanner. When I first got my license, I had this 94 F-150, so the scanner in that was just a little paper clip and 2 pins, and then you just count your check engine light flashes. Nice and simple. But when you went to ALHs for fuel economy, I bought this little guy. So this scanner, if you'd call it that, it only gets you the ECU codes. It's like a $10 or $15 Princess Auto special, like bare bones. Just ECU, just codes. You can't have any live readings, and you can't do any output tests. So it kind of helps you which way to point parts cannon, but to diagnose and actually have like an educated guess, this is not what you need. So when I first started driving, it wasn't this car, but I got a 2001 ALH, and I drove it the entire winter in limp mode. So 90 horsepower on a good day, put it in limp mode. I had all the Mennonites with horse and buggies would pass me. So if I had an actual scan tool, I'd be able to test and find out that the mass airflow sensor was bad. With this, you do a little bit of research on why is an ALH in limp mode. You can have mass airflow sensor, your snow screen might be plugged, intake might be plugged, you might have vacuum line issues, N75 issues, turbo issues, so you can just start throwing parts at it, and this $10 scanner can cost you a pile of money. So after doing a little bit of research, after driving that ALH all winter with it just being something as simple as the mass airflow sensor being bad, I decided to do some research, and back then, early 2010s, VCDS I think was pretty well the only option for a very in-depth tool. The issue was this cable cost more than my car, so that was a bit of a tough pill to swallow. Then you also had to buy a laptop on top, so it got expensive quick. Now the other option, you've got OBD11, which is like phone based. I've never used it. But there's also a third option, which is a little bit more economically friendly and ergonomically friendly, which would be the Launch Elite V2. So again, this will be Volkswagen and Audi specific, same thing as the VCDS and the OBD11 if you buy the subscription packs. But let's go over why I wanted to do this and why I'm doing this video. So if you haven't guessed, this Launch scan tool was sent to me for free, basically to make a video about, so I'm not being paid to make my opinion one way or the other, but I think this is going to be a great alternative to VCDS. I've got the legacy interface, which I'll talk about here in a minute, so I needed another scan tool to kind of fill a bit of a void that I have. So it's going to be a bit longer of a video, so use the timestamps to jump around, but we're going to talk about why I think it's a great VCDS alternative or OBD11 alternative. And then I've got one of every flavor TDI out in the yard, so we're going to go plug it into certain cars and we're going to test and make sure that it's actually going to do what we need it to do on these cars. So besides VCDS, the other option was OBD11 that I talked about. So I don't have any experience with it, but from what I can see, so it's about 60 euros for the free package, which is the dongle, which will connect to your phone. I think that's a fairly bare bones scan tool, but again, I'm not 100% certain. From what I see, I think you need to buy the Pro Pack, which was 99 euros, which 50 of that is a yearly plan. So you're paying that 50 euros every year to be able to do those in-depth diagnostics, which kind of sucks. So I'm not a huge fan of subscription fees. It makes the tool cheaper up front, but over the long run, if you're doing lots of diagnostics, I guess it will pay for itself. But yeah, it kind of sucks having to do a reoccurring fee. So the next option was VCDS. So with this one, this is a legacy interface. So it's a hex CAN, so it's an unlimited VIN, but it's only good up until 2015. So that's 11-year-old cars now. So people in my family are starting to buy newer cars, and this won't work on them anymore. So the new ones, again, are, instead of being a reoccurring yearly plan, they went to limited VINs. So the Hex V2 enthusiast version was $199 US, which was a 3 VIN. It doesn't use the VIN if you do a scan, if you clear the DTCs or look at measuring values. But if you're doing output tests, like priming the fuel filter, stuff like that, it does use up a VIN. So I would run out of my 3 VINs very quick. You can get a 10 VIN for $299. That would probably last me a while, but again, down the road, I'd have to upgrade again. So that's why this thing right off the hop seemed like a good option. The other issue I have with VCDS is it requires a laptop. So a laptop inside of a car is pretty clunky. It's sitting on the passenger seat, you got the cable stretched over, and the other issue I always have is my battery's dead. So besides shoving a laptop in my passenger seat and having a cable run over my leg, I now have DeWalt battery charging the Milwaukee top off, which has power for my laptop charger. So it gets really bulky really quick. So that's what I like about this. You can charge it, charges through the OBD port. Don't have to worry about dead battery. Okay, so inside the package here, we've got instruction manual that I should probably read. We've got our cable, we've got the scan tool, and then we have a bunch of desiccant packs that we can have snacks for later. So we're gonna get this plugged into the ALH. So that's the oldest car I have here is an ALH. Then we're gonna try my wife's BEW, her CJAA, my V10 TDI. Okay, so up first we're gonna do the ALH. So this is a pretty simple setup, but there's a few things I really kind of care about with these cars. So let's go to diagnostics or diagnose. I've already been logged in here, but so you basically click Volkswagen out of the drop down. We're gonna do engine electronics. We're gonna let it think. So the issue that I have between the launch versus the actual VCDS is, so for example, to do adaptations, you need to do a login. VCDS tells you which login it is, like what the code is, whereas this doesn't. So you're just kind of guessing. Or if you do enough research, VCDS will tell you it, and it's the same for this. So read DTC, glow plug circuit fault. So I don't really care about that. It's a million degrees out right now. So if we wanted to do adaptations, we got to do login first, 5-pin code, and VCDS tells us it's 12233. Login successful. So then if you want to do adaptations, you click there. So whereas VCDS is going to tell you what the adaptation is, here you're just kind of guessing. So you got to do 1. Okay. So this one is going to be injection quantity. So it's going to change the adapted number. You can go up, you can go down, or you hit input match value, and then you can manually put it in. So somewhat similar to VCDS. So adaptation, we can do 2. This is RPM, so we can't really adjust it very far, whether it's with the launch or VCDS. That's more of a tune thing. Let's do 3. Okay. So this one would be EGR, so you can adjust the EGR all the way down for off-road use. It's still going to inject a little bit of exhaust gas recirculation, but it's not going to be as much as factory. So ignition timing, so that'll be your, for starting. So that says on VCDS not to adjust, whereas this one obviously is gonna let you adjust it. It's a bit more cumbersome, whereas VCDS kind of guides you where you need to be. This one doesn't. So let's start her up. So sadly the hood stack's gonna be a little bit noisy. So you can go through, read data stream. So we'll start off at 1. So again, same groups as Volkswagen or as VCDS. It's just you have to kind of scroll around a little bit. So you do next channel. Next channel. So for this one, like say that car that I had the mass airflow issue, you could graph it. We could do both of them, specified in actual. So Does everything that you needed to do with VCDS. The only downside is going to be the timing, where VCDS you can do the graph where it's got the red, blue, green lines. This, you're just gonna have to read the number and kind of do a little bit of research on what the number's supposed to be. So it's a little bit more cumbersome, but it's still gonna kind of get it to where you need to do. So just for an example here, so VCDS measuring blocks, if we go group 0, you hit go. What did I do wrong here? Oh, there. So then you can go to TDI timing. So then you can select your engine, which I am an ALH past March of 99, so that's your group there. So your timing, you can see it jumping around, but that's the downside versus here. And then yeah, I'm just more or less, I'm used to the measuring blocks and stuff like that on VCDS, so it's just nice and quick. You can bump through what you're doing. If you want to do adaptations, you gotta log in. 1 2 2 3 3, do it, and now you can do adaptations. Coding, it tells you what that ECU is supposed to do. This one did it as well, but you just need to look at this to be able to put in the correct number. And both could do output tests. I didn't do it on this one as an example, but yeah, they both can do output tests. Okay, so we're in my wife's CJAA, so honestly, we're gonna skip the BEW. If the ALH plays nice with it, I'm going to tell you the BEW is going to play nice with it. The main things with that will be like the fuel pump activation and checking torsion value. I guarantee it's going to work for that. So we're going to skip to the CJAA because the AC works beautifully in here. So diagnostics, so this is a CAN car, so auto detect should work. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do. So it's going to go through all the controllers here. I guess it's a good example. So it's going to go through everything. It's going to tell you what fault it finds. These common rail cars, they're somewhat electronically simple. The Touaregs are usually known to be pretty electronically complicated, I guess. So we'll do that with that thing as well. So I'm kind of curious what codes it pulls up, but we're going to let it run through its thing here, and then we're going to play with the ECU. Okay, so it gives you a cool little report. So it tells you all that stuff. Transmission electronics, transmission fluid pressure low, that's a scary one. Electronics, central electronics, so left low beam and parking light. Navigation, tuner for the radio deactivated, faulty control module. I don't know, the radio still works, so. Passenger door electronics, heated outside rear view mirror, open circuit. Cool. So then you can share as well, you can send it via email. Okay, so we're on the engine for this one, so there's no DTCs, so read data stream. So this one's a little bit nicer, we can read by list. And then we can go, you basically, so you got group 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, group 2. Same thing, kind of like VCDS. I don't know what one to look at. We do. So you can see that jumping around, and then same kind of deal. You can put it into a graph. You can combine requested and actual. Works pretty slick. So now we're gonna shut the key off. So important thing on these CJAAs is bleeding out all the air when you do fuel filter changes. So basic settings, read by list. And I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's running the fuel pump. So I'm not sure why they would use the word adjust, but that's how you get it to do its thing. But yeah, you can go through, you've got all the good stuff. Turbocharger, exhaust gas recirculation adaptation, regen. Lots of handy stuff. So another thing with the automatic, when you're doing DSG oil changes, go there, read data stream, read by list. Oh, temperature, transmission fluid. Nice warm 82 degrees, so I think that's going to do everything that you need to on these common rails. Just, again, it's a little bit, the VCDS kind of guides you through it nicely, whereas this is, if you know what the values need to be, you can make it work. Okay, so now we're in the V10, so we're gonna play around with it. So I did a quick scan. So electronics, we got a bunch of stuff. So I've got a DC to DC battery charger, so I got a lot of voltage related codes, but some of the stuff isn't looking the greatest. So engine, brake electronics, the chassis, seat, climate control, electronic central control. If you didn't know, V10s had 2 ECUs, so it sees both ECUs, so that's kind of cool. Airbag, steering column, instrument cluster, data bus. I don't even know what vehicle position detection is. Anti-theft. Seat adjustment for the driver's side, navigation, comfort system, trailer function, rear view camera, roof display. And now we're getting into the stuff that doesn't have issues. So it's, yeah, it sees everything, so it's pretty cool. So we will exit that. So we can do system selection. So ECU 1, that's all fine and dandy. Everything can see ECU 1. The ECU 2 is the kind of the so you go to communication, let it think for a little bit, and same thing. So read DTCs. So steering column electronics and steering column electronics. We can do actuation test. So EGR valve, boost regulation, pressure too high. So they kind of word this a little bit weirdly, but this is going to run the VGT vanes, which I've done videos on those before about where the vanes lock up. So it's kind of cool to see them move around. Intake runner flap. You can hear when it closes, it almost shuts the engine off. It's kind of handy. You can do all this stuff, and it can see it's all on the number 2. But yeah, the access permission coding, stuff like that, you kind of need to know the codes to log in. What else was there? Level control system. So that's like for the air suspension. Got no fault code, so that's nice for once. Read data stream by list. So you kind of see where all the height sensors are sitting, so it goes into pretty good detail with these V10s on all the different controllers, the different settings, stuff like that you can get into. The climate control module, read DTC. Defroster flap motor, so that's been an ongoing issue. Refrigerant loss, I've got an AC line leak, so there's no refrigerant in it, so yeah, I didn't expect it to work this well with the V10. Okay, so my final thought on it. So I'm really surprised on how well it worked with the V10 TDI. Like I said before, I didn't expect it to see all the controllers and be able to actually go in and read them, do the adaptation, stuff like that. So I was kind of surprised with that. The issue I found with it is it doesn't really tell you, or it doesn't really hold your hand and tell you the codes you need or what exactly you're changing, whereas VCDS kind of has that background support, like what's the login for the adaptation and stuff like that. So with the 4 cylinders, I think it's going to work awesome. There's enough stuff online that you can, if they're using VCDS, you can figure out how to do it with the Launch scan tool. Whereas the V10, there isn't as much stuff out there, so you're gonna kind of have to stumble your way through it, and it's not as handy as the VCDS, I guess. So I think it's going to be a great tool to use besides VCDS, but in my case, I don't think it's going to completely replace the cable. The main thing was, like, if I'm doing a quick diagnostics, I can plug it in. I don't need to drag out my laptop charger and all that stuff. I just grab the scan tool, plug it in, and go. So I think it's definitely gonna have its place. And same thing, like, I've done road trips cross country. The V10 went cross country. I've taken my ALH, the one before my Golf. It had like 570,000 kilometers. I took it to Thunder Bay. I've taken it to Florida, and I always had laptops with me, VCDS with me, and I'm always concerned that the cable's gonna get stolen, my laptop's gonna get stolen or broke. So the scan tool, I don't want it to be stolen or broke, but I would definitely not have as hurt feelings if it went missing. So I definitely think it's going to be one to take along with road trips and stuff like that. So overall, I think it's a great purchase. So check out the link in the description to purchase it. And yeah, that's the end of this video. So hopefully you kind of weigh some pros and cons, and kind of helps you decide on what scan tool you need to get. So thanks for watching.